Hello, folks, and welcome to another edition of the Dr. Mark Foster Show. Today is June 18th of 2013. Today I will talk about the subject of exopolitics. If you are not familiar with or have been studying the field of ufology as I have been over the last couple of years, most likely the term exopolitics will be an unknown word to you. So let me explain to you what it is, and then give you my own evaluation of it, its origin, and its history. First, exopolitics is based on the idea that there has been regular contact with extraterrestrial civilizations, especially in recent years and after World War II, and perhaps much earlier than that. The assumption is that we as human beings need to recognize our place in the universe and to figure out how we as earthlings are going to interact with these beings. Now, on face value, that idea may make some degree of sense. It doesn't to me, but maybe to some people. But there are a lot of people for whom exopolitics is their field of dedication. They identify with that field. They've written a lot of books on it. There's an entire paranormal literature which is devoted to this area called exopolitics. There are some issues with it, however, which I think can help put it into a better light, and perhaps save some people from being diverted from what I think is the legitimate message of these extraterrestrial or trans-terrestrial beings, and this kind of silliness which often poses as exopolitics. I talked about what I thought was the actual mission, namely to establish world peace, denuclearization, ecological sustainability, and so forth. This whole idea of exopolitics, which has some people like Dr. Stephen Greer taking people to Mount Shasta and elsewhere on expeditions where they use various, what he calls protocols, to make contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. Those protocols include chanting various mantras or sounds, meditating, and also practicing remote viewing, which is a type of systematic clairvoyance, or ESP, and literally imagining themselves as if they are on that spacecraft, which to these people means that they are. So I guess if you imagine that you're on the craft, then you are on the craft. In one place in particular, Dr. Stephen Greer, who is a medical doctor, talks about how he found himself on an extraterrestrial craft, and he said, "Hi, I'm Steve. Do you remember me? We met before." As you can see, perhaps, whatever level of credibility, perhaps, that this field might have, very quickly deteriorates simply by looking at some of the key players, like Dr. Greer, who is involved in the movement. Now, I have nothing against Dr. Stephen Greer. He is certainly entitled to pursue his own interests or to entertain himself as he sees fit. But I think that people should be aware of the kinds of things that do take place in this movement and the absurdities that are connected with the field of exopolitics. Let's go back and talk about the origin of the field. The term exopolitics was first used in this particular context by a fellow by the name of Alfred Weber. Alfred Weber is a Yale Law School graduate, a Fulbright scholar, and he also taught economics at Yale and taught constitutional law at the University of Texas. In other words, he is not a stupid person. He is an educated person, much like Dr. Greer is an educated person. So what happened? Well, I will put a link to Mr. Weber's YouTube channel directly below this program, and also have a link to his website so you can go and peruse his stuff for yourself if you would like to do so. But a lot of people take him very, very seriously. There is, right now, in the exopolitics movement, a lot of controversy connected with him. Apparently, last year, there was a major exopolitics conference. As I recall, it was around November of 2012. Alfred Weber was not invited to the conference. According to what I have been told, the reason why he was not invited was because people who were invited said that they would not attend if Weber was also there. And again, that will be understandable once you watch his videos. So some people are saying, what has happened to Mr. Alfred Weber? Well, I don't think anything has happened to him. Exopolitics, in my view, was from the start a parody, satire. Much like, for those of you old enough, much like Pat Paulson, who started on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour and then went and had his own show very briefly, his own TV show very briefly, and then followed that with a lot of other work. Absolutely brilliant comedian, brilliant satirist, brilliant comic talent. Now, I'm not saying that Mr. Weber is as talented as Pat Paulson was, the late Pat Paulson was, but he certainly is a very brilliant guy. So the question would be, why would somebody who is that intelligent, who is that well educated, somebody who has been a law professor and an economics professor, why would someone like that be the originator of this field called exopolitics? And I think the answer is very clear, although it's something which, as I found out when I brought this up with people who are in the movement, it's something which people in the movement, at least most people that I have run into, have never considered. Namely, that he is a comedian. He has created a parody of ufology. What could be more humorous than taking this idea of ufology, the study of extraterrestrials and their spacecraft, and turning it into something where people actually begin considering how can we go out and establish intelligent, even spiritual relationships, often using psychic phenomena such as what Dr. Stephen Greer does, but he's not the only one. It's really absurd. Most reasonably informed people, when they would look at Mr. Weber's material, would recognize that he is joking, that it's comedy. But a lot of people who are involved in this movement are asking all these other questions. Has the guy lost his mind? No. Is the guy a government disinformation agent? Again, silly. Nobody seems to be asking what I consider to be the right question, namely that the field that they have gotten themselves into is a field which began as a parody, as satire, perhaps even one might say political satire in a sense, in a broad sense. What I would suggest to anybody who is interested in the field of ufology is to stay as far away from exopolitics as you possibly can. It is filled with conspiracy theories. It is filled with insanity, with people who are devoted to this idea that somehow it is their job to establish contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. Focus instead, again my own suggestion, on establishing world unity, on having a prayerful connection with beings in this world and in the worlds beyond, on communing inwardly and spiritually with souls in all the worlds of God. There is no need for exopolitics. Instead, I think we need to be focused on unity and on how we can best get ourselves out of this mess that we are in right now and establish a global civilization. Until next time, this is Dr. Mark Foster. Have a good one.